Our next speaker is Iris de Haas, and Iris is an engineering manager of the data team at ING, which we probably all know, and she has a background as a social worker. So as such, she understands the value of nurturing the potential of people who are not quite there yet. And she will tell us how ING has developed trainees with little or no technical experience in the past couple of years. So Iris, I think you're already set up, right?
Yes.
Okay, the stage is yours.
Let me see. Setting up the slides. All right, I think we're here. Thank you, Leon, for the introduction. And hello, everybody. Thank you for showing up. Happy to see you all here. Did you know that there are 650,000 people in the Netherlands with acquired brain injury? Acquired brain injury means any type of injury to the brain that occurs after birth, like after a stroke or an accident. It can lead to loss of speech and loss of motor function. And I'm seeing some confused faces here. No, you did not accidentally walk into a healthcare conference. It's just that if you would have told me 4 years ago that I would be speaking at a conference about my work, then that's what I would have imagined the talk to be about, because at the time I was working as a social worker. So then, how did I end up here on stage at an IT conference? Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Iris de Haas. I am engineering manager at ING. And as you can imagine, I got here through a little bit of a detour. In college, I studied educational and behavioral sciences. All I knew at the time was that I wanted to learn as much as I could possibly learn and that I wanted to help people. So that led me to work multiple jobs in education and social work after graduation. And although I was very happy to be making a meaningful contribution to people's lives, I still felt that there was a lot more for me to learn. I saw the impact that technology had on the lives of my clients. For example, I had a client who had a stroke, and that led to the loss of some of his fine motor skills, so he was not able to type anymore. And because of speech-to-text technology, he could still participate in his family WhatsApp group. And that got me really interested in technology and in the possibilities of IT. So in the summer of 2019, I decided to do an IT traineeship that takes people from all kinds of different educational and professional backgrounds and trains them to become engineers. So I went there. At first, I was internal there for a couple of months where I learned some of the IT basics. I learned a little bit of C#, a little bit of Java. And then after a couple of months, I was thrown into the deep end, and I started working as a DevOps engineer at ING. And with the help of my amazing colleagues, I managed to swim, not sink. And 1 year ago, I got the opportunity to start as engineering manager of the trade data team, which incidentally is the very same team that I started in as a trainee 3.5 years ago. And for me, we've come full circle, because as a manager now, I again get to do what I always loved as a social worker, and help people, coach them to reach the maximum of their potential. So now, I am here today to talk to you about these IT traineeships, like the one that I did. Based on my experience and what I have seen around me, I really believe in the concept. Taking people from all kinds of different educational and professional backgrounds and training them in your organization as the next generation of IT and IT leadership. So today, I will be sharing my experiences with you and those of my department. But first, let me get to the why. Why trainees? What will it bring you, your team, your organization? Well, we are in a field that is constantly changing. New developments and technologies coming in at lightning speed. And if you want to keep up, you're going to need engineers with the right skills and mindsets. And my manager at the time, who hired me as a trainee, he says that he has always cared more about motivation and drive than about a fixed set of technical skills. In his words, and I hope I'm not offending anyone, IT is not rocket science. Anyone with enough motivation, curiosity, and perseverance can learn it. And those are exactly the traits that you need to succeed in this ever-changing technology landscape. Also, historically, it has not always been easy to fill the gaps in our organization with experienced engineers. And that is one big reason why we got started with trainees. And I know that we are now in a different market than we are a few years ago, maybe even a few months ago. Layoffs has been happening, it's been all over the news, and some great engineers have been becoming available. So I can imagine maybe that for some of you, you're thinking, getting started with trainees is not at the top of my priority list right now. However, we have gotten tremendous value out of our decision to start hiring trainees a few years ago. And I believe that you can too. Specifically, we have seen in our teams increased innovation, enhanced learning culture, and an improved talent pipeline. And I will take you through each of these in more detail with plenty of examples. But first, let me tell you how I got to these results. At the Wholesale Banking Tech Trade Department in ING, where I work, we have hired 6 external trainees so far. And I say external trainees because we also at ING have internal traineeship programs where we hire fresh graduates with a degree in IT and we train them internally. However, that is a different concept which was left out of scope for this talk. So these external traineeships that I'm talking about, then there's a traineeship company, it's not ING, like external company, that hires people from all kinds of different professional and educational backgrounds, generally selecting them on a combination of analytical skills, social skills, and motivation to get into IT. Then they train them internally for a couple of months. Like for example, what we did, we got a SQL certificate, we did a basic Java course, we got an Azure certificate, things like that. And after a few months of this, they make a match for you with one of their clients, in my case, ING. Then after those few months, you go to ING, where they will train you as an external employee for 1 year, 2 years, depending on the traineeship company and the contract in place. And after that period, if both parties are happy, then the trainee gets hired as an internal employee at ING. So, like I said, we've done this now 6 times. We have 5 trainees that are already hired internally, that have been there for a couple of years, and we have 1 that's currently doing his traineeship with us. And what I did for this talk is that I interviewed all of them. Well, almost all. One of them is me. And I also spoke with my manager at the time who hired me and coached me during my traineeship period. And I asked everyone about their experiences. And before we really dive into that, I want to highlight already a couple of data points. And the first one is educational background, specifically the range and diversity of it. We got physics, biology, facility management, education. Also a funny one is epidemiology. She is one of the trainees that has been here a bit longer, for a couple of years, so she got out of the field already before it suddenly got very relevant. However, she shares that she has no regrets. The second one is tenure at ING. It seems that we have a pattern of hiring 1 or 2 trainees like every 2 years or so, which was really nice for this talk because we can really see the career progress like over the years. And it's also funny that it seems that every single trainee we have got hired through like one big chain of word-of-mouth referrals. So the first trainee, let's call him John, he started with us over 7 years ago. And after a couple of months, his manager and his team were so happy with him that they went back to the traineeship company to ask them for a second John. So they got a second trainee who was also really good, And then other teams started to take notice, like, hey, what's that one team doing? That seems to be working very well. Maybe we should try it too. So that's how the third one got started. So I could really track it through the interviews that everybody got there through like a recommendation because of their predecessors. So that's really nice. And the third thing is gender. For our 6 trainees, we see that 50% of them are women. And I know 6 people, not a very large data set. However, at the traineeship company that I come from, about 40% of the trainees are women over the years. So that's still quite a large number. So if increasing diversity is something that you want to do within your organization, and you want to get more women in, then these traineeships can be a great way of achieving that. Now, if we look at the results that we have seen out of hiring trainees, then the first one is increased innovation. We see that the trainees that we have hired, they are, even before they got into IT, they already show an affinity for technology and like a creativity in finding solutions for problems. Like, for example, one of them, when he was doing an internship at a nutrition company, not an IT internship, they had this problem, and he solved it by teaching himself Visual Basic and coding a solution in Visual Basic. And that was not part of the scope of his internship at all. But that's just who he is. He sees a problem, and he solves it, no matter if he needs to go beyond the boundaries of his role. And he really took that with him when he got to ING. He and one other trainee, they joined a team where they still had a lot of manual activities. Like, they did standby shifts where the standby had to manually log on every evening to monitor the processes because there was no alerting mechanism in place. So they created it. They created the alerting mechanism. Another thing was that that team was still doing all manual deployments. So one of the first things that these 2 did was that they made a deployment pipeline. Another example from the same team is that when our first trainee joined, the team was doing a database migration. They were going to migrate to MS SQL databases. And there were 2 senior engineers who were leading that. However, due to circumstances, they ended up being unavailable for a couple of months. So our trainee found himself, he was not even 6 months there, but unofficially leading the database migration. So I, of course, asked him, how did you manage? You were still so new. You didn't have a lot of knowledge yet. How did you do it? And he said, well, every problem that I encountered, I just tackled it one by one, dived into the error message, Googled a lot, looked into the code, would try a couple of things, try and see if it worked. And if he could not manage it by himself, then he would reach out to other teams, other departments sometimes, just to try and find the person with the specific knowledge that he needed to solve it. So he got it done. He finished that migration successfully. And that team in particular, before our trainees got there, they had a culture that had not changed in a very long time. All of the engineers there had been there for quite some time. All these manual processes they were the ones who created them. They were familiar with them. They were the experts. They were comfortable doing them. They didn't really have that much incentive to change. So like this effort to modernize and to become more efficient, they really had to bring in the outside influence to do that. Another thing that I really saw is that everybody brought like their particular expertise from their previous field with them into their current role. Like we have one trainee that used to be a university researcher. And she says, I used to investigate patients and diseases. Now I investigate clients and money. So she's a data and business intelligence engineer, and she really takes these research skills that she had from her previous role, and they help her become, they help her be a better engineer. Another funny one is, I still think like a cook. This guy, he used to work in the kitchen, and he says, when I was there, I would create, these simple, easy, efficient, workflows to get the food to the tables, in as fast as possible. And he says, I still do that. Whenever I'm designing a process or a workflow, I still have this mindset like I did as a cook. It needs to be easy to understand. It needs to be simple. It needs to be efficient. So he still works like that. Then the second benefit that we have gotten out of hiring trainees, that is, we've seen an enhanced learning culture. And well, what do I mean by that? Like, a learning culture is when every employee is engaged in learning for their own benefit, the benefit of the team, the benefit of the organization as a whole. It's when they want to learn how to be better at their jobs, how to create better processes, how to deliver better products and services. And once again, we really see that our trainees are very motivated to do this. At ING, every engineer gets 10% of their time to spend on personal development. But almost everybody that I spoke to does a lot more than that. They all say, we want to get, we want to learn these new tools, technologies, we want to get hands-on experience, we want to build our own projects. We see them all doing that. I think a lot of that comes from they are pre-selected on these qualities, on this willingness to learn and this motivation to grow by the traineeship company. Like, that's the whole selling point. They don't have the technical skills yet, but they have this willingness to go learn it. They even said, there's so many free resources that are available on the internet. Anything you want to learn, you can just Google it, and then you can learn it for free. There's somebody explaining it on YouTube out there. And there was like a bit of surprise that not everybody is doing that and making use of these opportunities. And one other thing that we really saw is our trainees are very good at connecting with others. If you want to have a learning culture, then you need to share your knowledge with people. You need to find also the people that you want to get the knowledge from. And we really see them reaching out to others, like the example that I had, for the database migration. People try for themselves, but if they cannot figure it out, they will take the initiative to reach out to others, and to get the knowledge that they need. And we also see them, asking a lot of critical questions. And I learned from my manager at the time that I, in particular, was very annoying with this. When I joined, I was always asking why. Why are we doing this process in this way? Why did we think of this? How come we haven't tried that? It was very annoying. It drove people crazy. But in the end, it really helped us improve. It got people to reflect on these decisions that we made, are they still the right decisions for our team? And is it maybe not time to reconsider? So it's really helped us move forward in that way. Finally, we also see that we are now experiencing an improved talent pipeline. If you want to maintain continuity in your organization, you want to keep the institutional knowledge, and you want to be able to fill your positions quickly, then you're going to want an internal pool of employees that are motivated to grow and learn and that you can promote. And if you look at our trainees, then the first criteria is that they stay. If they have this traineeship period for 1 or 2 years, you spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of effort training them. So you would want to retain them after this period ends. And we see for us that 100% of the trainees that started with us, that they become internal employees after their initial traineeship period ends. And even better is that even if it's been 7 years or longer, that's how long our longest trainees have been here, they are all still with us. In fact, most of them are still even in our department. And the 2 that moved, they actually moved because of administrative reasons, because their application and team got moved. So clearly, they're all happy, and they want to stay with us. So I, of course, asked why. And the answer was pretty unanimous. The people, they really appreciate the freedom that they have in our teams. They can take on new projects, they can learn new things, they can try on new roles. If you just say that you have this interest, then there's this freedom of taking that up. And like one good example of that is our current trainee. he started in more of kind of a functional role, resolving breaks in our financial interface, in our control model. And after a couple of months, he came to me and he said, this is not really my area of interest. I would really want to grow to more of like an ops role. And so we got the team together, we reshuffled the work a bit, and now we have a trainee who is happily building pipelines. And it works out for everybody in the end. Our trainee is happy, he's high performing, and he wants to stay with us. So I think that's really the secret to having these good working relationships that last. Now, a second thing to keep in mind when it comes to the talent pipeline is you don't just want your people to stay, you also want them to actually get promoted. You don't want them to get stuck at a certain level, then it's not a pipeline. So we see that this is happening. All of our former trainees have gotten promoted at least once. Most of them have had 2 promotions. We see on average 1 promotion happening every 3 years or so. And if you then look at the type of role that they have, you see that by far the majority of them is growing to more senior levels of engineer. They all say we got into IT to get our hands on the keyboard, let's say, to build things, and they want to keep on doing that, at least at this point in their career. So most of them for now are still at the individual contributor level. Then we have the one exception, we have the one engineering manager, that is me. But I come from a social work background, so like from my previous job, I am really used to coaching people and helping them grow, and that is something that really fits me. So for different people, different skills, different interests, we really see that different career paths are possible and that they are also actually being taken. Now, so far, I have been painting a pretty positive picture, and I truly am very positive about our experiences with trainees. However, there's a couple of conditions that you need to have in place if you want this to work well. The first of all is that you need to have a good match. You're going to want people who have this intrinsic motivation, this drive to learn, who are self-reliant, and who have the social skills to connect with the people that they need to connect with. And again, the traineeship company pre-selects the people on these qualities, and they also make a match, with what they think would be a good fit for your company, for your team. However, a tip that my manager gave, who hired me, was that you really have to stay critical on that. You have to ensure that this person is a good match for what you need in your department, and you know best, what skills that they need to have. So he said, don't, blindly accept the first person that they send to you, but stay critical yourself also on the selection process to ensure the match is there. And a second one that's very important is that you need to have the time and capacity to train people. You are basically going to hire someone with a SQL certificate and a basic Java course in their pockets. So you're going to have to train them from scratch. And that's going to take time and efforts. And if you want to get the maximum value out of your trainees, you're going to have to put in that time and efforts. I have one example where we kind of struggled there. One of our trainees joined a team where he said, the team just did not have the technical skills themselves to teach him what he needed to know, which probably was a big reason why he was hired. In the end, it ended up working out in that scenario because he was just such a person who took the initiative to learn by himself and to also reach out in a broader context to people who could help him. But for him, it was a frustrating experience, and it kind of delayed his development a bit. So if you really want to get the maximum value out and also ensure that your trainee is happy and learning and that he's experiencing the environment as supportive, then you got to think about this beforehand. How are you going to train them? But if you manage to have these conditions in place, then a bright future lies ahead. You will see that trainees are a great addition to your organization. You're going to bring in a diverse set of people with a broad set of skills who are highly motivated to learn and to grow and to enable positive change. And in the end, every organization wants to stay competitive, be prepared for the future, and deliver great products and services. And trainees are a great way of achieving that. Now, thanks a lot for joining today. I put my contact details on the slide. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or if you just want to connect. That QR code leads to my LinkedIn page. If you only take away like one message from today, then I hope it is that great engineers can come from any background. And that if you ever do accidentally end up at a healthcare conference, then you may want to stick around. You might just find your new colleague there. Thank you.